The general process for making one of our brews goes as follows. You start with 120 grams of Ecuadorian green beans. You put them into a roaster with the settings displayed on the screen. This will take a certain amount of energy and release a certain amount of volatile gases and water, thus losing weight from your original green weight. You will then take this mass of cooked and or roasted beans, put them into a grinder, and use the grind size of about 15 to 16. This is to maximize flavor while also not over extracting or under extracting. You can take and set aside about 16.6 grams of coffee. In order to replicate the roast, I am giving the exact same brew ratio. And you can set the rest of the grinds aside in a bag or some sort of storage apparatus. Simultaneous to this, you will weigh 300 grams of water and place them in your kettle of choice. Heating it up to about 85 degrees will take about zero point 0.1 kilowatt hours of power. You will then take the hot water and the roasted coffee and coffee grounds and put them into your roaster of choice. In this case, we used a Clever drip roaster, which required a filter as an extra item. You will then place all of these items into the brewer of choice and let it brew for 5 minutes. After the 5 minutes have elapsed, you may take the brewer and put the coffee into your cup, and you will have replicated the competition brew that we used. The logic we used to try to minimize power consumption was to keep the power of the roaster low while using a moderate fan speed in order to try and see if we could reduce power while roasting the beans adequately. Water heating was done in batches in order to try and reduce the total thermal mass heated up by the kettle per run. We thought that this may be able to take some benefit from the residual heat of the previous kettle runs, quote unquote, and see if this would be able to reduce our overall power consumption by starting the water at an overall higher temperature. This is our overall data for our competition brew. So we used Ecuadorian beans with a grind size of 15, a water temperature of 85 degrees Celsius. We used a Clever Drip brewer, and we let it brew for 5 minutes. Our brew ratio was 18. That is caused by us using 300 grams of water and 16.6 grams of grounds. We made this in 4 batches in order to reach the liter. We had 120 original grams of beans, and we only needed 83. Our settings for the brewer were 6, 4, and 7.5. We used 0.13 kilowatt hours for roasting, and for each batch, we used about 0.1 kilowatt hours for water.